First, I will start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगल्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will chant three more verses before discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayel. नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः. So before starting the Bhagavatam, we will chant the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra 3 times. You all can chant along with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So let me share the screen. Are you able to see the screen, the PowerPoint?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So, so as I mentioned before, we'll start with chapter 1 of Canto 1. There are 12 cantos, as we all know, in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada has very kindly translated and given very elaborate, very helpful purports for these cantos. Of last couple of cantos, Prabhupada was not in the planet, so his followers, with his previous permission, they did the translation, and they referred Krishna book and other scriptures and gave wonderful purports. And so as you can see here, as God is all light, all bliss, and all perfection, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is Krishna himself in that sense. So in the it is described that the first 2 cantos out of the 12 cantos, first 2 cantos represent Lord's lotus feet, and then it goes up, and the 10th canto is described as Lord's beautiful face, etc. So it is very, very essential and fundamental that we understand the earlier cantos before we go to the advanced topics, especially in 10th canto. And first two cantos are very important. If one understand first two cantos, then we are able to understand Krishna just by discussing first two cantos. So quickly we will go through the canto 1 contents, even though we will discuss only chapter 1, maybe part of chapter 1 today. But it is good to know, overall what is there within the canto 1. So in the chapters 1 to 3, we see that Sutta Goswami speaks to the sages, and Sutta Goswami is one of the member who was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly where Shukadeva Goswami spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, and chapters 4 to 6 is discussion between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. I'm not going into the details of this because upcoming sessions, these things will be discussed. And chapter 7 to 15 is describing disappearance of Lord Krishna and his associates from this world. And 16 to 19 discusses about appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is the whole canto 1. And within canto 1, there are many chapters. So let's see what are those chapters. Again, quick overview. So chapters 1 to 3 is the questions by the sages of Naimisharanya. And then Sutta Goswami, who is speaking, he will answer the questions. So in the chapter 1, there are 6 questions, and then later chapters, the answers to those will be described also. And within canto 1, chapter 4 till 6 is discussion between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. So here the context for this is before composing Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva wrote all these Vedas, Upanishads, etc. But he was not at all satisfied even after writing all these auspicious literatures. So he was going through this difficult situation. I'm not satisfied. I'm not getting that bliss, even though I wrote these transcendental scriptures. So at that time, his spiritual master descended in front of him, Narada Muni. And then Narada Muni will instruct Srila Vyasadeva to compile Srimad Bhagavatam. And then according to Narada Muni's instruction, Srimad Bhagavatam is compiled. Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he was able to feel that satisfaction because he glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly through Srimad Bhagavatam. So those details are there in chapters 4 to 6. And then chapters 7 to 15 describes many things. One of the things is Krishna's mission was finished with Kurukshetra battle. So there is a description of that. And then Lord continues the pastimes for some more time and disappears. So his some pastimes and his disappearance is there. Lord's associates such as Pandavas, Bhishma Dev, Kunti Devi, etc. They also disappear. So there are descriptions, wonderful descriptions of those. You can see here Bhishma Dev on the bed of arrows in front of Krishna and Pandavas, and there are conversations happening between Bhishma Dev and Yudhishthir Maharaj, etc. And then these Pandavas are leaving the planet, and Parikshit Maharaj's appearance, and he was protected in the womb of his mother by Krishna himself. So there are beautiful descriptions. And chapters 16 through 19 describes how Parikshit Maharaj meets Kali, and then how he is cursed by the son of the sage, and then Parikshit Maharaj accepts that curse. Curse was to die in 7 days, and Parikshit Maharaj could have counter-cursed. He had that potency, that strength, but he simply accepted that curse as Krishna's will, and he he wanted to do the best thing before leaving his body. And the best thing was to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So he started hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. So details are coming up later. So you can see here Parikshit Maharaj hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly of other sages, including Narada Muni, etc. And this is Shukadeva Goswami. So those are described in these chapters. And a little prelude to the Srimad Bhagavatam is given in the first 3 verses of chapter 1. And we will discuss definitely the first verse today. And if time permits, we'll go through 2 and 3. If not, we'll continue that in the next session. So in the first verse, Vyasadeva defines the absolute truth. So we can see a really beautiful verse, and each word itself is having deep, deep meanings. And the second verse describes Bhagavatam. It defines the actual religion, because religion has got many, many definitions over these days. So we will see the actual meaning of religion from the second verse. And third verse is a very sweet verse. It invites humanity to taste the sweetness of Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is ending, the very last verse of Bhagavatam describes or glorifies the holy name, Harinam Sankirtan. You can see here Lord Chaitanya and his associates, they are experiencing this taste, ecstasy by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So Bhagavatam is taking us towards that, to taste the holy name of the Lord, at least in this age of Kali. So let's move to the first verse. Now the verse itself starts with, because this is the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, because the first verse starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So anytime devotees discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, they will chant this mantra. As we also did that, but we can do once more for this verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll chant the verse. It's a long meter. In Bhagavad Gita, most of the verses, all the verses are of small meter. But in Bhagavatam, we can see varieties of meters. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschartheshvabhijnasvarat tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsuraya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. It's a lengthy translation, and the purport is really lengthy, because Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish the supremacy of Lord Krishna and many details, which is described within this verse. So I'll read the translation and then we'll discuss the purport part by part. Okay. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the 3 modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So as we can see, so much details are given just in this first verse. So I have taken portions of the purport and trying to put together within this set of slides. But later, when you get some time, you can read the whole purport. It will be very interesting. So as we can see here, first thing Vyasadeva does is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, offered my respectful obeisances unto Vasudeva. Now Vasudeva is son of Vasudeva. So here the conception of absolute truth is mentioned, indicates samam bonam, meaning something ultimate goal or the topmost thing, ultimate source of all energies, or that from which nothing is different, because everything is included within that. That is the absolute truth. Now, very interestingly, he also emphasizes absolute truth is a person. It is not some energy by itself, but it is a person. We are all personalities, and absolute truth is a supreme person. And the person is divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and name is also given Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. Now, many other scriptures, for example, Krishna Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, Brahma Samhita, composed by Lord Brahmaji, and Samaveda, Padma Purana, Bhagavad Gita. These are all describing Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead very clearly. So we can see that in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all other living entities and everything are his direct or indirect plenary portions or portions of the portion. There are many avatars and then different living entities and things like that. So everything is part of Krishna. And Krishna is the cause of all causes. These are all described in this verse. Everything else, whatever exists, including the Brahma Jyoti, is emanating from Krishna himself. And the meaning of Krishna is all attractive. So I'll go back to the verse here. So you can see that it is described here. He is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction, everything. The cause is Krishna. And then he is directly, sometimes and indirectly, conscious of all manifestations. But he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. He doesn't have any cause. In Brahma Samhita, it describes Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda. He is Adi, beginning, but Anadi, he doesn't have any other source. Sarvakarana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So it is repeated. The same instruction is repeated there also. Now here I found this nice chart which compares the Brahma Gayatri with this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam first text. So in the Brahma Gayatri, it goes like Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat, etc. So these verses, these words are here. We can see there are words which are very similar to that in this first verse. So Janmadhyasya Yato. You can see the first, it starts with Janmadhyasya Yato, first verse. So that describes Krishna is absolute truth and cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction. Everything emanates from him. And then there is Yatra Trisargo Mrisha, lower, middle, upper planetary systems or material universes. Mention of that in Gayatri also, Bhur Bhuvasvaha, Bhulog, Bhuvarlog, Svargalog, etc. is there. And then Swarat, completely independent. And Saviturvarenyam Bharga, that's what in the Gayatri. Sun self-sustaining effulgence. Self-sustaining, so full of independence. And then here, Tene Brahma Hrida, which is there in this verse, which I chanted today, the first verse, means Lord enlightens Brahma because of Brahma's prayerful mood. And in Gayatri, we can see Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat, prayerful mood of enlightenment. And then finally, the verse here ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. And here in Gayatri also there is this word Dhimahi. Dhimahi means I meditate upon the absolute truth. So in this translation, we can say, I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna. Satyam Param Dhimahi. Param means the topmost. Absolute truth. Satyam Dhimahi. Meditate. So it is, it starts with actually Gayatri Mantra in that sense, Srimad Bhagavatam also. And interestingly, towards the end of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the 12th canto, there are 12 cantos. In the 12th canto, there are 23 verses, but verse 19, which is almost towards the end, it is describing about meditation, that verse also. So Bhagavatam starts with meditation on Krishna, not on void or nothingness, but on Krishna, and it ends also with, almost towards the end, with meditation on Krishna. He is the ultimate objective. So this is very important to understand, the purpose of Bhagavatam and how it is being described and all these details. Now, Srila Prabhupada writes, as I mentioned, a very elaborate purport, and he covers many aspects from this verse. So one of the important thing he indicates is inquiry. Inquiry is, human intelligence will inquire, right? Animals may not have that much intelligence to ask, why this is happening, why is it happening like this, why not like this, etc., etc. But human being has got that intelligence. They can question things and they want to understand, so they will inquire. Now, in Vedanta Sutra, so Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary of Vedanta Sutra, by the way. So the Vedanta Sutra also starts with Athato Brahma Jignasa. Brahma Jignasa means inquiry about the absolute truth. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives direct answers to all these inquiries. We can see that, in the beginning itself, there are questions asked by the sages to Sutta Goswami, and then he will describe the answers. He's not going to describe the answers just like that, but Bhagavatam itself is giving all the answers for any kind of inquiries. So that is one thing Srila Prabhupada describes. And the reason why Srimad Bhagavatam is able to give answers, because Bhagavatam is all about Krishna and his associates. And who is Krishna? Krishna is a source of creation. He is a source of sustenance and destruction. He may not be directly involved, but his expansions may be doing some of these activities, because Brahma is the creator, but he is a secondary creator. So Krishna empowers Lord Brahma to create, and then sustenance, Vishnu is doing his expansion, and then destruction is done by Lord Shiva, but again he is empowered by Krishna himself. And in Vedanta Sutra, second sutra is Janmadhyasya Yatah, the same words from this verse, SB 111. Vedanta Sutra also has. So we can see the link. Srimad Bhagavatam is not just a random composition of some sage. And Krishna, because he is a source of everything, he is supremely intelligent also. Every one of us has got some intelligence, but Krishna is a supremely intelligent personality. All the universes, right? All the universes, innumerable stars, and there are many, many planets, unlimited planets. They are all controlled by Krishna himself. through his agencies or agents. So sometimes, some scientists, modern scientists, they think that these satellites are just like that, they're thrown to the outer space, and then they can manipulate that, manage that, sitting here, etc., etc. But Krishna is the controller of all these unlimited universes, and each universe has many, many planetary systems, and they have different, specialities. Not all are same. So he is managing all these things, that without any difficulty. So that is why he is called as supremely intelligent, the most intelligent personality. So that is described in this verse. And in Kathopanishads also, again in Bhagavad Gita also, it's described that Krishna is the chief individual person. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse called Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Manigana Iva. Matta Parataram Nanyat Kinchidasti. There is nothing exists beyond me, more than me. That's what Krishna is describing to Arjuna. It is described something like if there is a chain of pearls, pearls are hung through a thread. So externally we can see only the pearls, but the pearls are put together by this string, which is not seen. Like that, Krishna is by Krishna's intelligence, all these universes are created, and they are all floating in the air, and then nicely going through different transformations, etc. But behind this, which many people cannot see or understand, is Krishna's hands. And he is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. All manifestations. So it includes even Lord Brahma, first created being, and all this smallest ant, insects, all the individual living beings. But Krishna is a supreme living being. He can understand because he is sitting in everyone's heart. In every atom, he is sitting as Paramatma, which is his own expansion. So without chapter 18 also in Bhagavad Gita, we discuss that, right? There are 5 things, 5 causes for any action. And the most important cause is super soul. Super soul is Paramatma. He has to sanction so that we can even move our hands or breathe or anything, any small thing. And without his knowledge, nothing can happen. So he is the supreme living being. So that is why Vyasadeva accepts in this verse itself the supreme intelligence as Parameshwara. Parama is the topmost controller. All of us are tiny controllers. We have this tiny free will, and we try to control some things, right? But Krishna is the supreme controller, the Parameshwara. Bhagavad Gita also accepts this, and Arjuna also speaks at Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, etc. And Krishna also speaks at many places, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo in chapter 10. I am the source of everything. Mata Sarvam Pravartade. Everything is emanated from me, etc. And he also speaks Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto Matta Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. I am sitting in everyone's heart, and I give knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. So he already spoke that in Bhagavad Gita, and these are all described in this verse. These are at least indicated, if not elaborately. And Prabhupada is, giving us the details of these verses. So that's why Vyasadeva starts with paying obeisances. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Obeisances to the Supreme Intelligence addressed as Parameshwara, or Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we just touched upon this, but Prabhupada describes this also. What is the significance of Srimad Bhagavatam compared to all other scriptures? Because, as I mentioned before, Vyasadeva compiled all the Vedic literatures. Vedas were compiled into one in the beginning. He divided. The word Vyasa means division. So his duty, it is the duty of Vyasadeva to divide the Veda into separate portions so that less intelligent persons can understand, go through that and understand the Vedas. So he did that, 4 divisions of Vedas. It is familiar. And he compiled Vedanta Sutras, Puranas, Mahabharata, etc. But even after that, he was not at all satisfied. And he was going through this dilemma. And at that time, his spiritual master, understanding his heart, his disciple's heart, Narada Muni came in front of Vyasadeva, and then he will chastise a little bit, as a spiritual master does to a disciple. And then he will instruct what to do, how to get rid of this dilemma, how you can be satisfied. He describes that you can be satisfied only if you describe the personality of Godhead directly. So Vyasadeva, meditate for some time, and then he'll be empowered to compose Srimad Bhagavatam. So those transcendental activities are described in 10th canto, directly Krishna's pastimes, as we can see. But to understand those pastimes, especially some of the very confidential pastimes, such as Rasa Leela, and even the other pastimes also, we need to understand who the absolute truth and what are the characteristics of the absolute truth, and how do we understand the absolute truth, what is our relationship with the absolute truth, etc. Those we have to have proper knowledge, sambandha gyan about those. So for that, Vyasadeva starts with Canto 1, then goes to Canto 2, 3, 4, etc. And then describes many aspects. We can see the Bhagavatam includes the material creation also, how this material world is being created, what are the sequence, which personality came into this world first, and then how that got expanded. There are different degrees of explanations of the creation. And then there are many other pastimes of his pure devotees, how they are going through different situations and how they are taking shelter of Krishna, etc. So there are many aspects described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Once we understand all these things, then we will be ready to discuss the pastimes of Krishna directly, which is in 10th canto, which is very elaborate. There are many chapters in 10th canto. So that is what described here. But in order to reach to the very substance, which is 10th canto, which is described as the lotus face of Sri Krishna. So we start with lotus feet, slowly worship and go up, right? So same thing, Srimad Bhagavatam. Study of Srimad Bhagavatam also follows that sequence. Gradually we can develop that knowledge and understand Krishna. Now, Prabhupada very carefully give us this warning that unscrupulous persons, they will jump into the 10th canto. Not only that, 10th canto starts with the pastimes of Krishna's birth and childhood pastimes, and it goes like that. But some persons, they will jump to the rasa dense portion, 5 chapters, and then they will describe that in their own whatever way, and then attract people, etc. So this is very dangerous. Suddenly jumping. And if somebody is not going through, lower classes, class 1, 2, 3, grade 1, 2, 3, then middle school, then high school, then they go to, PU, pre-university, and then goes to undergraduate and graduate, etc. That is the sequence. If somebody suddenly jumps to PhD or so, then they cannot do justice, right? Similarly, this is the instruction. We shouldn't jump to these things directly, because these subject matters are very confidential. They are highly spiritual, and only one's heart is fully cleansed, the liberated persons, pure devotees, they can understand. because they are not contaminated, they are not having attraction to this material world. So they are completely, they have taken shelter of Lord Krishna. So they can understand that in the right way, proper way. But otherwise, if we are still contaminated, if we have a contaminated heart, then our focus can get diverted and our understanding can get deviated, etc. So that is why we should go through chapters, cantos 1 through 9, before actually relishing the essence of pastimes of Lord, which is described in Canto 10. So for that purpose, Vyasadeva invokes Gayatri Mantra in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. That purpose means, how one can gradually purify oneself and then start understanding Krishna's pastimes in Canto 10. So the Gayatri Mantra itself is meant for spiritually advanced people, not for beginners. So if one is successfully chanting Gayatri Mantra, then they can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. So even in ISKCON, when one takes Diksha, first we get a Harinam Diksha, wherein we will be initiated into the chanting of the holy name. Chanting can happen even before that, but formally, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then once we chant the holy name, we have Sadhu Sangha, discuss Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. And then serve the devotees and Lord. And then gradually we can take the second Diksha, which is the Gayatri Mantra. So the Gayatri Mantra is not to be given in the beginning. We have to have some level of purity. And then once one chants Gayatri Mantra, then further purification happens. And, so we need to have Brahmanical qualities, mode of goodness, even to chant the Gayatri Mantra. And then we can realize the Lord, His name, fame, qualities, etc. Of course, holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself has all the potencies. In Shikshashtagam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes that Nam Namakari Bahudha Nija Sarva Shakti. Everything is invested. All potencies are invested within the holy name of the Lord. That is also enough. But Gayatri Mantra is also very potent. For practical purposes, sometimes we need to formally get initiated into Gayatri Mantra, especially one wants to worship the deities in the temple, Radha Krishna deities. We need to follow those regulations and take up those Diksha. Otherwise, even Harinam itself can purify us, and we can take us to the position where we can realize Lord's holy name, fame, qualities, etc. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he wrote his commentary, he gave this description of the last three words, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Param means to the highest limit. Satyam means that Supreme Lord who exists in all time and space. Dhimahi is let us worship or meditate on. So let us meditate on that Supreme Lord who exists in all time and space. He doesn't have any limit, unlimited personality. Krishna is Ananta, to the highest limit. Now he is the Parameshwara as described before. So to that Parameshwara, let us meditate. And the Gayatri Mantra is doing that only. So Vyasadeva invokes Gayatri Mantra here so that we can we get the opportunity to purify ourselves by studying Srimad Bhagavatam gradually, starting from Canto 1 to etc. Then at some point, we will be qualified to learn Krishna's pastimes. Of course, one may ask, because Srila Prabhupada wrote Krishna book, which is same as Canto 10, even the chapter wise. Because he wanted to write the purports of Canto 10, but he was going through difficult situations with respect to his health, and then he was having some doubts that whether he can complete his Bhagavatam commentaries before he leave this material world. So since he wanted to provide commentaries to 10th Canto specifically because that is being mistaken, misunderstood by many people. So in the beginning itself, before he completes other cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, he wrote an elaborate commentary of Canto 10, and he published that as Krishna book, which you are familiar with, I hope. And that is being distributed. So one may ask, before one completes Srimad Bhagavatam, how can one get into, Canto 10? So that's why Srila Prabhupada gave enough explanations so that one will not be misled. But at the same time, that wealth is there. But from a personal perspective, we should focus on Canto 1, 2, 3. Even though we might read Krishna book, that's fine. But we shouldn't leave studying the earlier cantos, at least. And another aspect given in this verse is the absolute truth is in the spiritual sky, not the material sky. Meaning he is the controller, he is the source of everything. But in the material sky, everything is relative truth, because the truth is relative to something else. Even the truth, the definition of truth changes while time passes. What was truth before, or what is truth now, may not be truth before. Truth, or something is, it is okay to do this right now, but 100 years ago or 50 years ago, that may not be okay to do. I hear this example from devotees. These days, people go to colleges, schools also, but in colleges these days, sometimes in the class, someone can have some food while teacher is teaching. At least in some Western countries, it's very, very common. Even when I went to take PhD, I saw people doing that, and I also did that. Teacher is teaching and students are eating in the class. And India, I don't know, probably it's happening these days. But at least a couple of decades before, this was not a nice thing. And other thing is, in Western countries these days, we can see that students bring gun to the school classroom. There is no issue. And then even they can, do whatever they want. They have a lot of freedom. But olden days, this was not the case. So what is okay to do now in this material world was not okay to do sometimes before. Or the truth, the definition of truth also is keep changing. That is called relative truth. And again, for some people, this may be a truth. For some other people, this is not truth, etc. They have their own definitions. But the absolute truth, which is in the spiritual sky, there is no deviations. The absolute truth is Krishna, and their relationship is fixed. They don't have different definitions of who God is or those kind of things. Everything is very clear, ultra clear. And because of that, the reality, ultimate reality is in the spiritual world. So as you can see from this picture, this is a spiritual world, and this desire, when someone desires to enjoy independent of Krishna, then they'll be sent to the material world. And in material world, of course, there are pious acts, because Vedas are describing pious activities. So that is being given to us so that we can get purified. And there are impious acts, as we know, many demoniac persons do that. And then there are dharma, artha, kama, moksha, these things. Economic development is there, religiosity is there, sense gratification very much. It's full of that. Sense objects are there. All these things are there. And then, some people wants to get liberated and get the Sahajya, liberation, etc. These are all there. But these are all relative. But the absolute truth is in the spiritual sky. That is being given. Now here, Krishna, there are two aspects, two energies, internal energy and external energy. And Krishna is the controller of both the internal energy and the external energy. But Krishna has his own Swarupa. He manifests his own Swarupa through his internal potency. But he also controls his external potency, which is called Mahamaya, through his agents. But the external energy is, it's not fake, but it is temporary. It exists eternally, but it is manifested, it will be unmanifested, etc. It will come and go. The creation, this material world will be created, then it will be destroyed, it will be created, it will be destroyed, etc. And it is illusory also. It is like mirage in the desert. We feel like there is water in the desert, but when we go closer, we don't see any water. So here is a nice picture we can see. This is the borderline and the person, and this is the like water. We see the shadow in the water. So the material world is described as a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Because spiritual world, Krishna is hugging his pure devotee. So everyone is Krishna conscious completely. They're always thinking about Krishna. All their activities are surrounded by Krishna. They want to glorify Krishna. They want to please Krishna. Now, how they do, it differs depending on their relationship. There are parental rasa, there are friendship, shanta rasa, dasi rasa, and then conjugal love. And in material world, also the relationships are there, but it is perverted reflection because we wanted to enjoy without Krishna. So we try to become lords. I want to power this, I want to enjoy this on my own. Here these babies, these boys playing with some toys, thinking these are my toys and I want to enjoy with toys, etc. This is very minor, but there are much more to that, as we know. So in this verse, it's also described that even the great sages and demigods are put into illusion. Not only demoniac people or very much contaminated people, but even the great sages, they are very much elevated. And demigods, they are very powerful personalities. Even they are put into illusion. We have many pastimes in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, right? Lord Indra is a great demigod, much powerful than living entities in this earth planet. He himself is put into illusion sometimes. The Govardhan pastimes is there, and many other times he fell down from his position also sometimes. So that we can see, and some sages, Vishwamitra, sage with Vishwamitra, and Saubhari Muni. There are many examples given in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are put into Maya. So his external energy is so powerful, very, very powerful. That's why Bhagavad Gita describes Daivihi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. My external energy is Daivi, it is divine. Mahamaya is not bad. She is serving Krishna. And he tells Mama Maya Duratyaya. It's very difficult to overcome. Mama Maya, that is the external energy. And then he gives how to overcome also. Mameva ye prapadyante. You have to take shelter of me. Maya metam tarantite. That way you can come out of that mind. Overcome my external energy. So this cosmic creation, it appears as reality, but it is a shadow of the spiritual world. So these are all described in the first verse itself. So that's why the first verse is very, very important, and Prabhupada gives long purport because of that. All this information is given in this as a nutshell in the first verse itself. And then another verse talks about three modes create everything within this material world. Trisargo Vrisha. And then of course, everything is temporary in this world. So these modes of nature, Bhagavad Gita very much details that mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, right? And we went through that even in the chapter 18, how modes of nature controls different things, knowledge, happiness, determination, etc., etc. Hope you remember that. This attachment to the body, home, love. There is love and hatred, happiness, distress. Matra, sparshastu kanteya, shitoshna, sukha dukkada. This is there. Dualities are there. And people still get attached to that. They think that, yeah, these are real. How do I overcome this on my own, etc. So it's like a dream. Material world is like a dream. It will come and go. An example given is, if someone dreams a tiger, they'll be fearful. But even after they come out of the dream, that fear will be there for some time, a little bit residue, and then they'll realize that, yeah, I was in a dream, the tiger doesn't exist in reality, at least in this place. So it is something like that. So when we wake up from the dream, all those sufferings which we are going through will be gone. So wake up from dream meaning coming out of this material entanglement and then completely taking shelter of Krishna. So Krishna is given this name Abhijna and Swarat. Abhijna means fully cognizant and Swarat means fully independent. Because Krishna is completely free. He is completely independent. There is nobody controlling him. Now Krishna can, wish to be controlled. That he does for his pastimes. He would like to be controlled by his pure devotees, but that is his wish. No one, otherwise nobody can control him by themselves. He is completely independent. And then he knows everything, as we discussed before. So Lord is completely free and independent to appear anywhere and everywhere by his internal potency. And no other living entity has that position. No one else is fully cognizant or fully independent. Now the level of cognizance or independence may vary, but not complete. Right? So we, in this world, we can see that there are many personalities. Some will have more knowledge on this material thing. Some will have less knowledge. Scientists are there on, they are expert in some things. Somebody else is expert in something else. But they have a limit. But Krishna doesn't have a limit. So in this world, independence means complete independence means it is an illusion, because the reality is nobody is completely independent. So there is a nice saying that if you need complete freedom, take complete shelter of Krishna. Understanding that I'm dependent on Krishna, that will give us freedom to utilize our free will. If you don't understand that, then if we try to execute our free will, we will be more and more dependent on other things in this material world. If not Krishna, we will be depending on Maya. Only two options. So this first verse give enough descriptions about that by giving this Abhijna or Swarat. And further descriptions given by Srila Prabhupada, he describes that how this material world is being created. There are many different understandings of this Big Bang theory, and all of a sudden the whole thing got created. Some explosion happened and things got created, etc. Otherwise, there is no creator, no person behind this. It just happened on its own randomly. So I heard this. You might have heard this also. Suppose you take the wristwatch, the olden days wristwatch, and open the wristwatch. There is a little machinery within that, with a couple of wheels and the needles and some other stuff within that. Suppose you take those out, separate it out, and then put that in our hand and throw up. And then in a couple of seconds, all these minute components will fall down. So what is the probability that all these things, these components will get settled themselves and become the same machine which was sitting in the watch before? So one can say that yes, since it can settle down in any way, this can be on top of that or this can be on the side, there can be some percentage of chance that it can become exactly same as before. But in reality, practically thinking, we know that there is no possibility that it can become that machine unless one person sits and assembles that together. It will not. So this is a tiny little simple watch we are talking about. So how to speak about this huge universe or huge material creation or beyond that? or this planet itself. There are many planets, they are floating in the air, and there is sun, there is moon, all these other planets. And if the earth is moving slightly, little bit closer to the sun, the whole thing will be destroyed. So the requirements are very, very stringent, etc. So how this can happen randomly unless a person is controlling all these things? So Vyasadeva is very much convinced in that aspect. So he describes this as absolute truth, and this is the source of everything. And he's telling nothing can be independent of this body of the absolute truth. And another example given here is, if something happens to our body, we will quickly know. And if somebody is touching my hand, I will know. Or somebody is calling me, that sound is coming into my ears, I will know. Or if I have some pain in the stomach, I will know. Now, all this creation, spiritual material, everything is within Krishna. So anything happens to the whole existence, Krishna will know. So without his knowledge, nothing can happen. So it's also described that this universe is similar to a big organization, and these various demigods are given the duties as heads of different departments, and Krishna is controlling them and also empowering them to do their duties. So Krishna is not directly participating, but indirectly he is controlling all these various activities happening in this material world also. So we have this famous sutra, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. Achintya means inconceivable, which is inconceivable. Bheda, Abheda. Bheda means difference, Abheda means non-difference. Tattva is philosophy. That is absolute truth. Krishna is simultaneously, he is one. That means everything is within him. That way, everything is one. But then everyone is individual also. So that is difference. Because I cannot say I am Krishna, because there is a big difference. But then I am part and parcel of Krishna. So in that sense, and I'm of the same nature, the spirit soul, Krishna is spiritual. So we are all spiritual in that sense, we are all one, but we have our own individuality, and we are not unlimited as Krishna. So there is a difference also. And then analogy given here is a gold mine, which is huge, which is gold itself. And then there are golden ornaments. Now, they both are gold. In that sense, they both are same. But then we cannot tell that this golden ring is same as that gold mine. There's a huge difference also. So similarly, Krishna and his parts and parcels, everything existing in this existence. It's described that there are only two things. One is Krishna, another is Krishnas. Nothing else beyond that. Now, Prabhupada also doesn't forget to mention this, that some people, not some, probably many people, they argue that Bhagavatam is not compiled by Srila Vyasadeva so many years ago, etc. It was compiled by somebody, some people tell some Vopadeva or somebody recently, modern creation. But then description is that many acharyas, Sridhara Swami and others, they refute this by referring Srimad Bhagavatam. In many other Puranas, there are descriptions or mentions of Srimad Bhagavatam in many Puranas. There is a Gayatri Mantra. It starts with Gayatri Mantra, right? Srimad Bhagavatam. So Matsya Purana refers to that. It also refers to the story of Vritrasura, which is described in Bhagavatam. And then some other Puranas, it is described, Bhagavatam has 12 cantos and 18,000 verses. And in Padma Purana, there is a description of Gautama Rishi instructing Maharaj Ambarish to recite Bhagavatam daily, etc., etc. And then we have other acharyas, recent acharyas, Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vallabhacharya. They all wrote commentaries about Srimad Bhagavatam. So if Bhagavatam is written recently by some Vopadeva or someone, why these very, very elevated acharyas will spend time in elaborating the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam by writing commentaries. Why would they spend time in that? They are pure devotees, they can do their bhajan. So they all realize that Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puran. It's not written by some modern author or so, because they are very, very intelligent, much more intelligent than scientists or others. So these are all proofs that Bhagavatam has its own significance, and it was composed by Srila Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of Krishna, especially this Vyasadeva, because every Yuga cycle Vyasadeva, this is a post, different personalities will take up the post, but this particular Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasadeva is very different from other Vyasadevs, because this Vyasadeva is Vishnu Tattva himself, and other Vyasadevs are they are Avesh avatar. They are empowered jivas, Jiva Tattva, but empowered by Krishna to divide the Vedas and things like that. So that is also described here. And then coming to the conclusion of this verse, in a couple of slides we'll conclude, and then we'll open up for some discussion. So in the conclusion of this verse, Prabhupada emphasizes on this Param Satyam, because the last three words are Satyam Param Dhimahi. So Krishna is all attractive, of course, absolute truth. He is the cause of all causes. He doesn't have anyone who is equal or superior, asamordhva. That means nobody is equal or superior to him. So because of that, Srila Prabhupada recommends that everyone surrender to Krishna. If one doesn't surrender to him, then that means that person is an illusion. Illusion means they think that I am the Lord, I can power, I can use the power in whatever way I would like, etc. So they are in illusion. I heard this quote from I think Radha Matswami recently. If somebody thinks that I can manage my, I'm paraphrasing. If one thinks that I can take care of things on my own, I don't need any help, I can manage things on my own without any guidance from a superior authority, then we are inviting Maya. Meaning, if one doesn't surrender to Krishna, that means we are inviting Maya to take charge. And we know what will happen when we give our life to Maya. Maya's duty is to bewilder us, give us suffering, he'll throw us like somebody is playing a football game. Kick the ball to that side and then kick the ball to this side. And if we give ourselves to Maya, that's what will happen. And that's what's happening to most of the living entities. So when one surrenders to Krishna, then one becomes Mahatma. This is given in Bhagavad Gita also, verse 13 of 9. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. Daivim prakriti, which is divine, Yoga Maya. So one takes shelter of Krishna, then they are Mahatmas. And another definition of Mahatma is given after many births, we come to the possession of Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha in Bhagavad Gita. We understand that Krishna is everything and then takes shelter of Krishna, then one becomes Mahatma. Otherwise, one cannot claim himself to be Mahatma. So one interesting thing here, we can see that Bhagavad Gita ends with surrendering, right? We learned the Sarvadharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayishyami Mahashucha. That's what Krishna instructs, the last instruction. And we can see Srimad Bhagavatam starts with that principle only. Now, of course, the verse 1, it describes Krishna's supremacy. He is the supreme controller, cause of all causes, absolute truth, all attractive. Therefore, it is very much reasonable or very much advisable, or it is wise to take shelter of him who is the supreme controller, right? If he is controlling everything, then why not take shelter of him? Then we are completely safe. So Bhagavad Gita ends wherein Bhagavatam picks up. So that's why Prabhupada gives us instruction: learn Bhagavad Gita first, then start studying Bhagavatam. And then Bhagavatam ends with Nama Sankirtanam, glorifying Harinam Sankirtanam. So once we finish Bhagavatam, one can start learning Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us holy name, right? Harinam Sankirtan only. So this is intelligence. What is intelligence? Surrendering to Krishna. So one more slide, then we can stop. So here, the gradual elevation to the highest perfectional stage of transcendence can be achieved by studying Bhagavatam. So we will transcend the modes of material activities such as Karma Kanda, which is fruitive actions, Jnana Kanda, which is speculative philosophy, or Upasana Kanda, which is more in mode of goodness, worship of functional deities, sometimes worship of some demigods, as given in the Vedic scriptures. So these are all good. These are all elevating, but Srimad Bhagavatam will help us to transcend all these things and directly set us in a position where we can worship Lord Krishna by taking association of his devotees. Of course, it is gradual. It is not like overnight we will become completely pure. But gradually, the Bhagavatam itself will take us. We don't need to, make any other endeavor except surrendering to Bhagavatam. Study Bhagavatam, discuss that, trying to apply that in our life, in the association of devotees. Pure bhakti can be only attained by mercy of devotees. So association is very important. And when we study Bhagavatam in that mood of service and that intention to know Krishna and how do I purify myself and understand the transcendence, highest perfection stage, then we can reach the topmost position of servant of Krishna. So one little mention here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has his own realization about these few words. Tene Brahma Hrida Adikave. Bhakti was revealed by mercy to Vyasa by Narada, who has Brahman in his heart. So he translated a little differently. Here Brahman means Krishna, of course we know. And Brahma Hrida is in his heart. So Narada is carrying Krishna in his heart, and then by that pure devotee Narada's mercy, Vyasadeva was also able to understand Krishna. So that's what he's. So bhakti was revealed by Narada to Vyasadeva. So by mercy of a pure devotee only, we can also get the seed of pure devotion service. So we have that opportunity by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his followers. So we just need to have that right attitude and receptive mentality. Then we can also, get that opportunity to understand Krishna and then experience Krishna. So, as I told before, I couldn't go to the next verses or further into the chapter 1, which we will discuss in the next session. But I will open up for some discussions or questions now.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. It was a very good session. I think few things have gone inside my brain, which I have heard before also, but it didn't go inside my brain. So thank you for that. And yeah, I can only say one thing, that now I am understanding that I have no intelligence slowly. Before I used to think I have too much of intelligence. I am slowly realizing that I have nothing. So
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the club.
thank you for that. Thank you for that realization, Prabhuji. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that nice, very significant point. It is nice to think that way because that is the fact, and we are inviting more mercy from Krishna by having that mode of, I'm an insignificant servant who doesn't have. I mean, it is even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed that when he accepted a spiritual master to give us lessons, of course, he is Krishna. He mentions that my spiritual master told me, you are a fool, so you just don't spend time on learning Vedanta Sutra, simply chant the holy name. Of course, it is a lesson for us. He is Krishna himself. But that's the right move to approach a guru. My dear guru, I don't know anything, please instruct me. So then we are in the safe position. So thank you for sharing that, Mataji. Any other realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, there is a lot of confusion between Krishna and Vishnu. Actually, what we learned so far is Krishna is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, the 10 avatars. And how here it's some different story.
Yes. Yeah, it is common question. Even I had that understanding when I was growing up. Now, so there are two things. One is why that understanding is so common. But before that, let's see what is the right understanding. In Bhagavatam, there is mention, of course, the first verse is elaborating that only, but there is a Paribhasha Sutra verse of Bhagavatam that is the topmost verse of the whole Bhagavatam. Everything is, standing on that base, which is Ete Chamsha Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So it describes that Krishna is the Swayam Bhagavan, and every other incarnations, they are all coming from Krishna. And even Brahma Samhita also describes, Lord Brahma's Brahma Samhita describes the same. Krishna is the Bhagavan. Ramadi Murtishu, Kalani Amena Tishtan, etc. Lord Rama, etc. All the incarnations are coming from Krishna. And then there are other descriptions wherein it will come later in Bhagavatam that Krishna is the supreme Bhagavan, and then he expands into Balaram, and then Balaram expands into Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and then again this Sankarshana, there is another Narayan expansion, and second Chaturvyuha is there, and then from that again the Mahavishnu will be expanded. So Mahavishnu comes later in the sequence of expansions, even after Balaram also we can see. And then that Mahavishnu, he is also called Karanodakashayi Vishnu. There is an expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, then further expansion of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, further expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. So all these details are coming up, so I'm not elaborating, but it is described in the scripture. Now the confusion is there for one reason is what we see is all these incarnations are coming through within our earlier understanding, coming through Mahavishnu. It is something like if there is a door, and then some people are coming through the door, and then Krishna also will descend to this material world through that door of Mahavishnu. Actually, Krishna is the supreme, and then Mahavishnu is an expansion or expansion of Krishna. But for the purpose of pastimes, Krishna expands or enter into this world as an incarnation. But he's Purna Avatar, that's also described. So it looks like Krishna is coming through that door of Mahavishnu. So that means we are only seeing that. We don't see behind that what's happening, or we are ignorant of that. So we feel that, Krishna is also an incarnation of Mahavishnu. But when we go through this, by the mercy of Acharyas, there is something more to know, that Mahavishnu is just, not the Swayam Bhagavan. They are all same personality in different expansions. They are not different personalities. Krishna and Vishnu are same personality. There are no two personalities. But Mahavishnu is an expansion or of Krishna in that sense. So our understanding was limited. That's why we, whomever taught us or we heard from somewhere, we thought that Krishna is incarnation of Mahavishnu. Especially since this Dachavataras, there is Ram, Narsimha, Matsya, Kurma, all those avatars. And Krishna is also part of that. And then all are coming out of Mahavishnu. So we thought Krishna is also an avatar. But these scriptural descriptions give us clarity that yes, Krishna is a Swayam Bhagavan and everything else is coming from him. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? You can give your realizations, whatever you've understood from this verse. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji means, though we are hearing from all of you that bhakti, pure bhakti, all these things, but then also means mainly I am talking for me. That I think that while chanting and worshipping the devotees means I'm in the path of bhakti only.
Right.
But it is today it is very clear that you have said that pure bhakti can be attained only by the mercy of the devotees, as it is given by the Narada only to Vasudeva. So it is
Right.
really means now I can little bit I realize that when I was not in this Krishna consciousness, that time also I was chanting and worshipping the deities. But the feelings of that time and the feelings of right now, it is a very big difference is there. Now slowly,
Right.
though I am not at all intelligent, but little bit I can understand when you are giving such a nice explanation of all the verses, all of you, all the Prabhus and Matajis. So it is really bhakti can be attained only by the mercy of the devotees only. Otherwise,
Right.
it is not at all possible to know Krishna and to know all the things regarding this all Krishna consciousness.
Correct.
Thank
Very
you,
nice realization. Yes, that is true because Bhakti, Krishna has given the power of attorney to give Krishna. I mean, attorney to the devotees to give Krishna to others. So Krishna wants us to take shelter of his devotees. That's why he mentions that if one claims to be a devotee of Krishna, he is not a devotee. But if one claims that I am the servant of Krishna, then he is a true devotee. So he likes us to take shelter of his servants, pure devotees. And that way, pure devotees are more merciful than Krishna. Krishna sometimes will be a bit more strict. Oh, you have to be like this, surrender completely, this, that. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came as a devotee. And he's not telling, you have to surrender completely, then I will, no. He's just asking anyone and everyone, just come here, chant, you'll be given the entrance to the Goloka Vrindavan. And Nityananda Prabhu is begging at the feet of these demons, please chant at least once, etc. So merciful devotees are, and Prabhupada we can see, he was completely merciful, doesn't care who is coming, what kind of people, what is the mentality, are you ignorant or knowledgeable or demoniac or not. If you're ready to, if you're sincere, he's giving the bhakti. Yes, thank you.
And Prabhuji, one more question that you said that for the Diksha, that is in first initiation, they give us the Harinam, and after that it is the Gayatri Mantra. So that is the second initiation or what?
Yeah, that is usually we call that as Brahmanical initiation, meaning we can start worshipping the deities in the temple. At home we can always do, but in the temple, that is second initiation. That's what we usually mention.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Pranam, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, just we spoke about that Brahmanical initiation. So that can be given only to the men, right? Not for the women. Women in this Gayatri Mantra can be said by the women also?
Yeah, in ISKCON, yes, this is given to women also equally. And in other countries, especially in United States, etc. Women also can worship the deities in the temple equally as equal as men. They both serve the same way. So they go to the altar, they do all the same
Okay,
worships.
yes, Prabhu.
So
This initiation is given mainly for doing deity puja, right, Prabhu?
because it is described that just the first initiation, which is Harinam, itself is good enough to achieve love of Godhead. The second initiation is not not a must in that sense. It is optional because Harinam itself is completely potent. It is Krishna himself, non-different than Krishna. So yes, so the second initiation is optional, and it's majorly it is given for the purpose of deity worship in the temple, etc. But it's also purifying. We are taking one more step in our, we have to be very austere, chant the Gayatri Mantra 3 times a day and things like that. So in that sense, it is auspicious also, but it is not a requirement like first initiation.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, any further comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, it is told that this is material world, this is not real. But why our karmas in this material world is following us after our death or our rebirth and again? Why it should not follow us? Why it is following us?
No, so you are asking why karma is following us, right?
What we are doing in material world, it's unrealistic. It should not be considered. Why it is considering?
So material world is unreal, but it is not realistic. It is real in some sense because it comes and exists for some time, then it will be destroyed. So it is temporary. Now, why karma follows us is we are inviting karma to follow us. Because in Bhagavad Gita also there is akarma activities, wherein those activities which are Krishna centered completely will not acquire any karma. So we can come out of the cycle of birth and death. That option is also there. We have that free will. Now, why karma follows us is because if one still have some material desire, I want to enjoy whatever, then that means that person has to come back, or at death, the person has to get another body. Now, for acquiring that body, the principle is based on the karma, majorly. So based on the activities the person has done in this life or previous lives, that decide his next body. So the person decides by his or her free will that, yes, I need to enjoy more. So of course, we will not ask for this kind of body. Generally, the body is awarded based on our desire. For that purpose, the karma has to follow. So in some sense, we are actually pulling the karma, our own karma. But we have the option to stop these karmic activities or reaction of karma. Of course, chanting the holy name will help us to get rid of the reactions, past reactions. But then we might act again some sort of sinful activities, and we may accrue more karma. But we do have the option. This devotional process, if we follow completely properly, then we will be able to stop the karma following us. Does that make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji, actually it is a tough subject.
It is tough, but yeah, it is very tough, not so easy, but we are in a very fortunate situation compared to many other living entities, because we know exactly what to do, very, very, very clear how to come out of that. But many, they do not know. Hopefully by the mercy of devotees, they will know. So that's why we have been asked to pass this message to others also, give them also the opportunity to. And then, yes, practically it's not just one day business. It is a gradual business. There will be ups and downs, but we have devotees associations. If we are within that association, gradually we will But we know the path, and we have very nice protected environment to go through that path gradually. But it is tough, yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
I am traveling. I entered the class by 6:28.
Oh,
So
okay.
I missed the introduction.
Okay. I'm recording this. So if you would like, I will
Yeah, I need it.
make arrangement to
Okay,
the recording to be
okay.
sent to you.
Last 4 days I was in Puri. Now going
Oh,
to
okay.
Bhubaneswar. From ISKCON Trivandrum we are traveling.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, very nice to hear. Please pray for us, all of us.
Okay.
in the
Okay,
dhams.
bro.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any final comments? Otherwise, we will.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
This Bhakti Vriksha course was going on, right, Prabhu? This is also a part of Bhakti Vriksha, this Srimad Bhagavatam course. Because we were reading a passage and we were answering questions for that.
Right.
So, and now Srimad Bhagavatam has started. So, is this also a part of Bhakti Vriksha?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Prabhu, just
Yeah, please.
shall I add some comment here, Prabhu?
Please, please.
Yeah. So, Gayatri Mataji, so what we will be doing? We would be doing 3 weeks or 4 weeks of Bhakti Vriksha, and in between, to just have some change, we'll have this Bhagavatam also going, chapter summaries. So that would also be part of that. But Bhakti Vriksha is typically that more like question answer session, and whereas Bhagavatam will be more like a lecture session. So this would be a little different, but yes, this will go parallel.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay. So, we'll be covering like one canto or one chapter like that. How?
In one canto 1, we have 19 chapters, and probably just started first chapter. So like this, we'll have a chapter-wise summary.
Okay. Then far away we will go long.
Yeah. So we have I think total 600 or 700 chapters are there.
Okay.
Yeah, you are right. It's a long way. Prabhu, would you continuing next week to conclude this chapter 1?
Yeah, I can do whichever way. Shall I wait 3 weeks again?
No, I think it would be good if you can do continuous, so that there will be link. Otherwise, again, there will be.
Chapter. Okay, okay. We can. That. Yeah, I can do that. So. Okay. So I'll be able to conclude next week.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So let's thank Premvardhan Prabhu by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So thank you all devotees. Just one point before we close. As we said that now our devotees in this group are very much matured, and now they can lead or facilitate the Bhakti Vrikshas, and we have some devotees who had volunteered, like Sweta Mataji.